And for what's probably my most in-depth churchyard tour yet, I should think, a hell of a lot of history at the end of this one as well. Massive thanks to Jennifer, Tracy, Gary and Bob, lovely local people who helped me with a lot of the local knowledge on this one. Everything from the ordinary everyday folk, such as a woman who was a pauper lace maker and died at the age of 102, to a man who founded Bird in a Hand local Sunday school, and to war heroes and the Dashwoods and gentry and a lot more. So I hope you're going to enjoy this one. Good evening my friends, hope you're all well. And while we're back at the Church of St Lawrence in West Wycombe, a churchyard tour of course. I have more time on my hands now, so a churchyard tour is manageable. And as I always like to highlight who I call the war heroes, we will start with one who I did show on my first trip here, but I will highlight again. Sapper 2003-742 B. Belson, Royal Engineers, 28th of April 1942, aged 24. Also his father William, 14th of August 1954, aged 72, and his mother Hetty, 12th of January 1972, aged 82. Which one? Because I've been around and had a look, you see. Ah, here we are. In loving memory of Richard Gillette, or Gillette, youngest son of Francis Joseph and Louisa Gillette, died 2nd of September 1928, aged 32 years. Also Charles Gillette, Royal Bucks Hussars, killed in action 21st of August 1915, aged 20 years. In the midst of life we are in death. In affectionate remembrance, Sarah King, sister of Mr. George King of Earthstone, formerly of Roxwell, Essex, who departed this life December the 10th, 1893, aged 46 years. And what a beautiful, peaceful spot to spend our evening in. Some people don't like churchyards. They find them creepy or spooky. But the sun will be setting soon. Bird song. And surrounded by interesting historical people who, although dead, have lived their lives. And we can learn about them. A bird bath grave, look. This person may have been a keen ornithologist. That's nice. Ah, it's a bit too recent, I'm afraid, that one. I only have consent to cover one recent grave in this churchyard. So one recent grave I shall cover when I come back to it. To the memory of Frederick John, son of John and Mary Ann Westcott, who died March the 30th, 1867, aged 7 years and 9 months. Also Emily Florence, daughter of the above, died August the 25th, 1868, aged 5 months. The Lord give, and the Lord have taken away. Sorry. The Lord gave, and the Lord have taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Also in memory of Harriet Burton, who died August the 30th, 1917. And there is, of course, the Dashwood Mausoleum there. We're covering the more ordinary people in this tour. Oh, Christ. Oh, shit. That sunk down a lot. Sorry. In affectionate remembrance of Henry Collins of Plowmep Hill, which departed this life suddenly on the 25th, and the rest of it's gone, 1877. So it's the 25th of something, 1877, and he died suddenly. God, this ground is really soft. Good Lord. Another Commonwealth War grave over here, so we will cover this one. And the grave next to it, of course, once we've covered the Commonwealth War grave. Oh, another one there, so I didn't see that one. TR/10/36847 Private A.E. Johnson, 28th Training Reserve, BN, 10th of June 1918, aged 23 years. In loving memory of Cyrenus Bass, who died June the 13th, 1918, aged 66 years. Also of Sydney, aged 30 years. And of Hubert James, aged 23 years. Eldest and fourth sons of the above, who were drowned in Australia, November the 15th, 1909. Interred at Sutherland, Sydney, southwestern Australia. And God shall wipe away the tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death. Also, Helen Bass, dearly loved wife of the above, died January the 7th, 1908, aged 87. Is that 1908 or 38? Because it's chipped away there, you see. That's 1908, 1938 or 1928, aged 87. Margaret E. Westcott, something 1951. These are some big family plot ones here, but the stones have gone, and I've been warned to be a little bit careful around this bit because it's a bit precarious. 14621486 signalman A.J. Birch, Royal Signals, 22nd of November 1945, aged 20. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning we will remember them. And as we will come along this way, I'll just pause you a sec. Sorry, just had to pause you a minute, family was going by. As we leave A.J. Birch, we come to, at the bottom, another war hero. See, they weren't all buried in Commonwealth war graves, they could be buried in private family graves. And we've got in loving memory of William Mead, died 14th of December 1923, aged 71 years. And his wife, Jane Mead, died 18th of December 1923, aged 61 years. We call it death. To them, his life beyond. And at the moment, at the bottom, you've got also Gilbert John, son of William and Jane Mead, who died of wounds the 24th of May 1918 at Wimereux in France, aged 22 years. I will only show you the top person on the grave because the others are recent. It's a in ever loving memory of Flora Keane, died 18th of May 1906, aged 16 years. And then you've got people below, which are 1968, 1974 and 1989. So it's an old family grave that's then been reused again. as we go over this way, we find some more interesting graves. Which is this one, sacred to the memory of Henry Keane. So you've got another Keane there, which is obvious, possibly related to the Keanes we've just left. Who entered into rest August the 24th, 1899, aged 75 years. He was the founder of the Bird in H.A. So the rest of it's gone, I'm afraid, because it's blistered. Sunday School, which since 1859 exerted a good influence amongst the young of the neighbourhood. Blessed are the dead which die in the Lord, for they rest from their labours, and their sorrows do follow, and their works do follow them. Beg your pardon. Also of Eliza, wife of the above, who entered into rest November the 30th, 1902, aged 77 years. I can't read the verse at the bottom, but now here you have the memorial, the war memorial to the men of the wars. And look at the beautiful view they have to look out on. They fought for this, don't forget. And God bless and sweet rest to every single one of them, eh? To the memory of West Wycombe men who laid down their lives in the Great War 1914 to 1918, and whose names are recorded in the parish church. Live therefore and then for England something. I'm afraid the bottom bit's worn away. And then you've got in memory of the servicemen who fell in action in World War II, 1939 to 45. There was a grave I found earlier, and I can't quite remember where it is. It was interesting. As we go along this way, we see some of the oldest graves. Georgian era, those. Look, WW 1789 and AL 1779. These are quite recent, these ones. Basically, it was people who were native of Greenwich. So if I can find the grave again, I will. These are all pretty recent, these ones here. But there are some old ones along the wall. And you see the beautiful church. its dome on top that can seat people inside that. And apparently old Sir Francis Dashwood used it to signal to one of his friends. Whether that's true or not, I do not know. I am pointing you towards the church because the graves here are pretty much recent ones, apart from these along the wall. That's Georgian by its style. To the memory of Mr. John Barlow of this parish, who departed this life December the 8th, and I'm afraid the rest of it's gone. There was one round here that was, it's old, it's an old gravestone, it's people native of Greenwich in London, so I will try and find it again. Let's point you up a minute because these graves are quite recent. I'm walking among. And I don't record recent ones without the family's consent. Here are more of these old ones along here. Sacred to the memory of Mr. Richard Finch, who departed this life, and it's sunk down. Maybe I'll have to have a walk around and try and find it again. I hate that when that happens. May have been over here. There's an old one. I did go over this way. Truth be told, I went right over there to the very edge of the hill because I had to visit the privy, shall we say. So I got as far away from any graves as I possibly could. There are no toilets near here. No, it's not this one. Another bird bath grave over there. Well, I know I definitely saw it, so I will check around and see if I can find it again. In memory of Ethel Faulkner, wife of Walter Herbert Faulkner of Downley. At rest on Easter Day 1933, aged 51 years. Also Walter Herbert Faulkner. At rest on Sunday the 22nd of October 1961, aged 75 years. There are some older ones over here. James Morris, who died 12th of August 1897, aged 75 years. His end was peace. Also Ellen, wife of the above, 20th of February 1907, aged 81 years. All is well. Oh look, another Barlow. In loving memory of Frederick Barlow of Downley, who after a long and useful life passed peacefully away October the 31st, 1922 or 3, aged 82 years. They rest from their labours, and their works do follow them. Oh, call it not death, it is life begun, for the waters are past. The home is something. That's just worn away. But that's going to bug me now, because I did see an old grave with natives of Greenwich, so I may have to go right round again and see. And it fell over then. Goodness knows where that is then. Could be over this way. I think I went this way though. Yeah, I covered this one, didn't I? That's going to bug me now. In loving memory of Charles, son of James and Martha Hines, H-I-N-E-S, yeah, of Downley, born February the 6th, 1871, died September the 29th, 1880. It's Mines, the name, not Hines, Mines. And here are the parents, James and Martha. James Mines of Downley, born July the 26th, 1828, died December the 25th, 1892. God shall wipe away all the tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death. Also of Martha, widow of the above, born April the 13th, 1836, passed away October the 19th, 1923. Life's work well done. Ah, more mines here, look. This one I can show, this one I can't because it's a bit too recent. But they're obviously all buried in a row, the family. In memory of Arthur James Mines, eldest son of James and Martha Mines of Downley, born April the 17th, 1860, died January the 26th, 1940. And their second son, Ralph, he was born something in March 1867, and the rest of the stone has sunk below the ground, so I won't be able to reveal that one to you, I'm afraid. Yes, got ya. I knew it was around this way somewhere. In loving remembrance of my dear husband, Edward Cable, a native of Greenwich, who died December the 20th, 1896, aged 35 years. A light is from our household gone, a voice we loved is stilled, a place is vacant in our home which never can be filled. Also of Ellen, wife of the above, who died February the 18th, 1933 or 9, no, it's 39, aged 76 years, reunited. a long time between their passings when they had to be reunited. And that pretty much concludes the most interesting ones. There's a little walkway along here. But there are more modern graves. It gives you an aspect of the churchyard. See, this is an interesting one, this churchyard, because there are old graves amongst the new, or new graves amongst the old, rather, I should say. John Samuel Tordorf, eldest son of Samuel and Joan Tordorf, died 23rd of February 1947, aged 4 years. I was just checking the grave nearby to see if the parents are buried near you. You do find that sometimes. There's nothing on the reverse of that one. The man who founded the Sunday school. Me again, ladies and gents. There's a part 2 to this one. I've been round again on another day. Slightly damper, less bright weather has shown up some inscriptions on some of the stones that I wasn't able to capture yesterday, and I've just found another couple of Commonwealth War graves, and I always make a point of covering those. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, about another 6 graves to cover in this part. You've got 58340, driver W. Bailey, Royal Field Artillery, 12th of May 1915. This is an interesting one. I won't get too near because it's very recent, 2016. But it looks like either a mine or a buoy, you know, like the floaty buoys you get at sea, as a memorial. So, interesting. And this is our next Commonwealth War grave. 24854, Private M. Keenan, Durham Light Infantry, 18th of April 1915. And over here, this one is interesting because A, it's in the process of blistering, so in not too many years' time you won't be able to see the name, and 2, it is what is known in the trade as a right royal balls up. In loving memory of William Hawes, who, and then look at the D-J-A-D-U-A. That's been messed up. They've put it on back to front or something like that. But he basically died on June the 25th, 1907, aged 69 years. His end was peace, perfect peace. Well, the same can't be said for the poor man's inscription, can it? Yeah, that will be not too many years' time. That will blister away and you won't see the man's name or the mistake. And now we go right over that way for our next ones. Being careful not to fall over any of the sunken graves, which there are quite a few of around here. It's a family plot, this one. Like in London, when stones become unsafe, they do have to be moved. I mean, there was an incident some years ago of a little girl being killed by a falling stone in a graveyard, so yes, they have to be kept in check. In affectionate remembrance of George Albert. the beloved son of, and I'm sorry, the rest of that's completely worn away. But he was someone's beloved son, so nice to give him a mention. We were all something to someone someday, as my nan once said to me. And here are our next two. The Joinson family. Box tombs, so obviously quite a bit of money. And we'll start with our earliest one, which is here. They're buried near the Dashwood Mausoleum. Beneath this tomb are deposited the remains of Sophia, wife of Thomas Joynson, Joynson, and daughter of Mr. Samuel and Anne Joynson of this parish. She departed this life on the 24th day of January 1809 in the 37th year of her age. And you've got also of Catherine, daughter of the above, Mr. Thomas and Sophia Joynson, who died May the 4th, 1826, aged 25 years. To the memory of Mr. Thomas Joynson, son of Samuel and Anne Joynson, who died in the Lord, January the 5th, 1805, aged 50 years. He was brought to feel and find salvation in Christ. And you've got now the rest of it's quite warm, but you've got also Martha Gubbage, wife of the late Mr. William Joynson of St. Mary something, who died September the 21st, 51, aged 76 years. Perpetuate the memory of Anne Joynson, wife of Mr. Samuel Joynson of this parish, who departed this life November the 25th, 1810, aged 68 years. Also the above named Mr. Samuel Joynson, who died May the 10th, 1821, aged either 70 or 76 years it is. Then you have one over here, which is also Joynson. William Joynson of the Rookery St Mary Cray, Kent. Died December the 6th, 1871, aged 72 years. Anne Catherine, wife of the above, died September the 5th, 1885, aged 85 years. You have here Mary Johnson, died January the 20th, 1842, aged 9 years. Martha Johnson, died March the 23rd, 1825, aged 17 years. Children of William and Catherine Johnson of St Mary Cray, Kent. And you have, in a vault beneath, are deposited the remains of William Johnson of Haynes, who died March the 11th, 1827, aged 75 years. Elizabeth, wife of the above, died June the 17th, 1825, aged 64 years. Do we have anyone on the foot? Yes. Edmund Hamborough Johnson, died June the 29th, 1864, aged 25 years. Now, another Commonwealth War grave, which I've just noticed. The entrance to Mr. Samuel Johnson's family vault, 1811. So, they'll dig there, there'll be stairs that will go down into that vault there, and there's its air vent. Look at these, look. Old. And you can see none of the inscriptions anymore. These will be from the 17 or very early 1800s. Made from a kind of sandstone by the looks of it, which hasn't fared too well. Buried in this churchyard, P.H. Robinson, leading stoker, Royal Navy, P/K 01455, H.M. Proserpine, 13th of August 1944, aged 57, and the HMS is Proserpine, Proserpine or Proserpine. See, they show up different and slightly better in different lights. It's a shame you can't really see to the memory of Mary something, wife of Stephen W, and the rest of it's gone, who died December 14th, 1758, in the 31st year of her age. To the memory of Mary, wife of Stephen, and it's W, and the rest of it's gone, so we can't put names to them as hasn't got them, I'm afraid. And we go over to our next old grave. That's a bit recent, that one, I'm afraid. Walking amongst some fairly recent ones here, 1960s, 70s, 83. So yeah, I don't cover those without the consent of the family. And as I said in part one, the only modern grave I have consent to cover, we're going to be seeing in a minute. A lady was there tending the grave. I was talking to her just in general, like saying about the page and what I do and that. And she went, oh, that's nice. And she said, what graves do you film? And I said to her, nothing really after, say, 1940s or 50s without the consent of the family. She went, well, you've got my consent to film this one. Because the man is an MBE. So we'll finish off last with him, I think, because he's more modern. Although we have to walk past him to get to our old grave. What a peaceful place to rest, eh? And here is the grave. I have already trampled down the nettles. Here lies the body of Elizabeth, wife of William West of London, and daughter of Thomas Barnby of this parish, B-A-R-N-B-E-E, Barnby of this parish. She died ye 19th day of July, 1727, in the 40th year of her age. Never more than a foot away, loved and remembered every day. That's on the back of one of the really modern headstones. A good message to remember folk by, and this is our modern one. In loving memory of Honorary Alderman Edwin Barrows, MBE, Downley Village, Headmaster and Councillor, June the 17th, 1921. 15th of July 1996, lovingly remembered by all his family and friends. And Vera Barrows, 21st of October 1920 to the 12th of November 1910, lovingly remembered by her 4 children and grandchildren and friends, family and friends. Smells absolutely lovely here. I don't know what the smell is or where it's coming from, but it does smell very nice. And that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes our churchyard tour of St Lawrence, West Wycombe. Hope you all found this interesting. And I couldn't miss this one off just before I leave. This one was restored a few years ago, one of the lovely ladies in the church told me. And because of the stone it's made from, when it's wet, the inscription doesn't really show up well. But on a very bright, hot day, you get the inscription, and it's in memory of Richard Barlow, born July the 16th, 1785, died July the 9th, 1853. I don't know if there's anyone mentioned on the opposite side. No, there's not. So they've done a beautiful job of restoring that. And that now definitely is your lot. Hope you've all enjoyed the church and the churchyard. Thank you for watching, everyone. And I know this has probably been one of my longest churchyard lives so far, but with this one, with research, I've been really able to get in depth into some of the history of the people that we covered on our tour. Like this man marked with the blue arrow, Charles Gillett, Royal Bucks Hussars. Information on him: Private 817 Charles Gillett, Royal Buckinghamshire Hussars. He was killed in action at Gallipoli on the 21st of August 1915, aged 19. Residence at death was West Wycombe. Cemetery, Heller's Memorial, Turkey, panel 16 and 17, that's where he's mentioned over there. So as he's on a memorial, it looks likely that the body was not recovered. Location of memorial, the one we've just looked at on his family grave, West Wycombe. Born circa 1896 in Marlow. Parents and occupations: his father was Francis Joseph and his mother was Louise Gillett. Father's occupation was a farmer. In 1901, his parents' address, and of course his would have been in the census Mill End Farm, Marlow. And for our next war hero, and mentioned on another private family grave, driver Gilbert John Mead, marked with the blue arrow of course. Driver Gilbert John Mead, service number 15095, Royal Field Artillery, 33rd Division, ammunition colonel. Date of death, died 4th of May 1918, aged 23 years old. He's buried or commemorated at Boulogne Eastern Cemetery, plot 9B 39 in France. So that's where he is buried, and of course commemorated on his family grave as we've just seen. Driver W. Bailey, Royal Field Artillery, died 12th of May 1915. And here's his commemoration page from the Commonwealth War Graves Commission. I like these when you research these men, that they are commemorated, and you click on this and it takes you to a memorial, an online one in sorts for them, in memory of W. Bailey, service number 58340, 99th Bombardier Ammunition Colonel, Royal Field Artillery, who died on the 12th of May 1915, remembered with honour, West Wycombe, St Lawrence Churchyard, on the north boundary. So it even tells you where he is remembered. Commemorated in perpetuity by the Commonwealth War Graves Commission. They do a wonderful job. They really are an amazing organisation. And for our next war hero, Private Albert E. Johnson of the 98th Training Reserve, BN, and he died on the 10th of June 1918, aged 23 years. And we'll go to a little timeline for him, shall we? And someone who we really definitely could not leave off is Mr. Henry King, who entered into rest August the 24th, 1899, aged 75. And he is the man that founded Bird in Hand, which was more than a Sunday school. It did a hell of a lot for the local community. It taught children as well as adults. Quite a few adults learned to read and write in the evening school he set on. This is what I like about little country communities like this, and the churchyards as well. If you go inside and ask, sometimes you'll often find that the history is known and that they're keen, sorry to use a pun on this man's name, to pass it down. And so it was with him, because he was a much loved member in the local community, himself and his wife. They ran the Bird in Hand and local Sunday school together, and I'm told that they had no children that survived. So, and he was, when his funeral happened, the church was packed, so I'm informed. But yeah, there's a hell of a lot about him and Bird in Hand. If you want to read more, click the link in the description and you can read more about Mr. Henry King and Bird in Hand. But I like to sometimes put faces to names, and we're able to do it twice with this man. This picture from the early 1880s is Mr. Henry King, marked with the blue arrow, with his dog. Who the other people are in the picture we don't know, but it was taken in one of the local pubs which no longer exists. So that's the first one of him. And here, more poignant to our subject, is him outside his Sunday school. You see Mr. Henry Keane, and the lady over to the right is believed to be his wife. Who the two children are in the middle, we don't know. They could be relations, they could be members of the Sunday school, but it is said locally that they had no children. So that's Mr. Henry Keane, and as I say, if you want to read more about him, click the link in the description box. And for our next set of people, the Barlow family. These set of people I've become quite interested in really through research. We got as far as reading to the memory of Mr. John Barlow of this parish, died 8th of December, and the rest of it's all gone and blistered away. Now this gravestone is moved from where it originally was. As with many churchyards, London or country, when they become full, the stones are often moved aside, and in between graves are used for new graves. So the remains of Mr. Barlow and his wife will still be there, but their stone has unfortunately been moved away. It has to happen. It's called channeling. I've spoke about it lots of times before. But quite a bit of research into the Barlow family. Mr. John Barlow, he appears locally as a chairmaker, and as I say, he died on the 8th of December 1838. He married Jane Hawes, Haws, on the 27th of February 1786 in West Wycombe, Buckinghamshire. So they'd have married in the Church of St. Lawrence, which was the only church at the time. Slightly late registration for John Barlow. They wouldn't have got in trouble because it was the early days of birth, marriage and death certificates. But as I say, he died on the 8th of December 1838. He's buried on the 13th of December 1838. I've been able to find through research. And this is the registration from the books for his death. Slightly late because it appears in the January to March quarter of 1839, but as it was in December the year previous, they wouldn't have got into trouble. If you left it too long and much further into the process when this became more common, then you started getting into trouble and getting fines. But bearing in mind that they were both old at the time and his lady wife would have been old, there would have been no real consequences, particularly in a country community like that. And his wife, Jane. Interesting. When Jane Hawes was born in 1762 in West Wycombe, Buckinghamshire, England, her father, James Hawes, was 33 and her mother, Jane Carey, was 24. She married John Barlow on the 27th of February 1785 in West Wycombe, Buckinghamshire, England. They were the parents of at least 8 sons and 3 daughters. She died in June 1863 in West Wycombe, Buckinghamshire, England, at the age of 102. Now Jane was buried with her husband in that grave originally where it was, and because the stone is set much lower into the ground, it may have actually been broken off at ground level. We miss what would have been her inscription, but here's Jane's death entry from the Births, Marriages and Deaths. It's the April to June quarter 1863, and as we know that she died in June, been able to find that she was buried on the 19th of June 1863. In those days, June being a hot month, she would have died within 5 days of most of that burial date, so we can roughly guesstimate when she died, within 5 days of the 19th of June, and she's buried in West Wycombe Churchyard like her husband. More research went into them. I found Jane living in 1851, about a 30-minute horse and cart ride away in the village of Hambledon, with her son George, and in 1851 she was marked down as a pauper lace maker. George died before his mother. Jane lived to a very great age, which was unusual for those days. By the time she died, all of her children by one were dead. The only one left alive was the youngest, called Jane, and she was 73 when her mother died. And I'm told as well in the church that she followed her mother not long after to the grave. Whether she's buried in the churchyard there or not, we didn't know, but that's the Barlows of that line. And our next Barlow is the nephew of John and Jane Barlow, and this was the one I was told to come out and record. Remember I said to you about when it gets wet you don't see the inscription, when it's sunny you do, and it's been beautifully restored. And you have in the memory of Richard Barlow, born on July the 13th, 1785, and he died July the 9th, 1855. Richard Barlow was the nephew of John and Jane Barlow. He was buried on the 12th of July 1855, so just 3 days after his death, so it must have been quite warm. And more has gone, research-wise, has gone into him. Discovered that he was christened on the 19th of July 1785 in West Wycombe, so it would have been in the Church of St Lawrence. In 1851 he's still living in West Wycombe, so he stayed there all his life. His occupation was a tailor, and as I say, he was buried on July the 12th, 1855 in West Wycombe. Here we see him here in the 1851 census. He remained a lifelong bachelor. He lives on his own here at number 37, which is unusual for a man in those days to be living completely alone even. Unmarried, aged 67, tailor, birthplace Bucks, West Wycombe. And here we see his last will and testament, which is interesting. So I'm going to pause you and then I'm going to get the transcript up and read it to you. And this is interesting, this will. I'll read out the transcript of it. In the name of God the Father, and of God the Son, and of God the Holy Ghost, Amen. I, Richard Barlow, of Wheeler End Common, in the parish of West Wycombe, in the county of Bucks, tailor, being mindful of the uncertainty of this life, do declare this to be my last will and testament, in the manner and form following. First, I bequeath and give my soul unto the hands of the Almighty, trusting for eternal and everlasting conception through the Lord Jesus Christ. I desire that my mortal body shall be interred in a place, and shall hereafter name. I desire that neither hatbands nor gloves be given to my kindred, and that my body be enclosed in 2 coffins, the inside one to be made of hal, H-A-L, and the outside one of oak, made with 2-inch, made with a blank box lid like a Quaker's coffin, with 6 brass handles and a square plate on the lid. I desire to be buried in a Brut tomb, B-R-U-T, which I've since discovered is basically one of those simple brick-built vault type things. So he's buried in that. I appoint Davis Bigg of Wheeler End Common, aforesaid farmer, my executor, and direct him to pay all my just debts, funerary and testamentary bequests, as soon as convenient after my decease. I give and devise unto the said David Bigg all my copyhold estate, hold of the manor of West Wycombe in the county of Bucks, called Ricketts Farm, which I surrendered to the use of my will, with the acre of ground adjoining whereon a cottage now stands, or formerly stood, called Rigby's, and all the lands, buildings, and hereditaments, this is his spelling, I'm afraid it's quite bad, to the said farm and land belonging as now in the occupation of the said Edward Bigg, to hold the same unto the said David Bigg, his heirs, and are bound for ever, but subject and charged with the charges and encumbrances now affecting the same. I also give and devise unto the said David Bigg my copyhold cottage and meadow, with the hereditaments, known by the name of Secus Cottage, situate and being at Wheeler End in the parish of West Wycombe, and my called forms situate at Land End, adjoining the parish of Fingest in the county of Bucks, respectively hold of the manor, heirs, and assigns for ever all the remainder of my real estate and all my personal estate. So that's an interesting one, isn't it? That he wished to be buried so simply in a coffin like a Quaker's. He obviously didn't want a big fuss. And he left everything to one man. Remained a lifelong bachelor as well. The locals made a point of noting that he remained a lifelong bachelor, and this man, David Biggs, they were business partners and lifelong friends. So I was told to draw my own conclusions from that. And that's that very interesting will. And of course, I've liked to cover the ordinary people, such as ourselves, which we've just done. And now we shall cover members of the aristocracy who also did quite a lot in the local community, and some of them laid down their lives for their country. So the Dashwood Mausoleum is the next part of our Churchyard tour. And a very good early evening to you, ladies and gents. Sorry about the balls up with YouTube and the lives. It's cut out the beginning bit, which is this, and the end bits of most of them, and this is a fairly important bit because it introduces us to the Dashwoods. This is the Dashwood Mausoleum, West Wycombe Hill, next to the Church of St Lawrence, of course. The Dashwood Mausoleum is originally on a hill fort. The mausoleum itself was built in the 1760s. The mausoleum was built by John Bastard and designed by Nicholas Revet for Sir Francis Dashwood, 2nd Baronet and 11th Baron Le Despencer. To the house, memorials of his friends and family, Sir Francis built the mausoleum with a bequest of £500 from his friend, the 1st Baron Malcolm, who in his will instructed that the money be used to construct an arch temple column or additional room for such of his seats where it is likely to remain the longest. The cost of the mausoleum was £495, 5 shillings and 3 pence. And I'll walk you up there, and then I'll introduce you to some of the Dashwoods. Although this is called a mausoleum, it's there's not people buried inside, they're buried in the church. As I say, this is just a memorial to the Dashwoods. They are buried within vaults within the Church of St Lawrence. In the centre of the mausoleum stands a pedestal and urn flanked by 4 columns supporting a roof, and this is devoted to Sir Francis's wife, Sarah, the Baroness Le Despencer, who died in 1796. That is the wife of Sir Francis Dashwood of Hellfire fame. Sir Francis Dashwood himself died in 1781 and is commemorated on a marble slab that reads, "Beloved, respected and revered by all who knew him." Sir Francis and his family's bodies are interred in vaults in the Church of St Lawrence nearby. Now I shall introduce you to some of the Dashwoods. Now, Sir Francis, who I speak of Hellfire fame, this lady here, there's nothing, the first lady on the left, she is Mary Fane, the eldest daughter of the Earl of Westmoreland and the second wife of Francis Dashwood. That's not Francis Dashwood of Hellfire fame, this is his father. So this lady that we're looking at is Hellfire Francis, his mother. She died in August 1710, aged 55. leaving 2 children, Rachel and Frances. Now the lady next to her is Sir Francis Dashwood of Hellfire fame's stepmother. And she is Mary King, daughter of Major J. King of the King's Own Island something regiment, a 3rd wife to Sir Francis Dashwood. She died December 1719 of her age 35 years, and she left 3 children, Mary, John and Charles. Now, the next person I want to introduce you to is not a Dashwood, but it's interesting nonetheless. You see just there. Now these don't contain any remains or ashes or anything like that. They are memorials or commemorations. And this one is to Thomas Thompson, medical doctor. And he was doctor to Frederick, Prince of Wales. He was also a member of the Hellfire Club. You'll see a picture of him right at the very end of the video. But he was quite a famous man in his day. He was also made a baronet as well. He fought with Nelson at the Nile, so he worked his way up through the ranks like that. Our next person is here, and he is one of our war heroes, an aristocratic one nonetheless, but a war hero of course, and he is Robert Henry Lindsay Dashwood, captain of the Prince of Wales' own Yorkshire regiment, son of Sir Robert John Dashwood, born in 1897, and he was killed in action on the 27th of May 1918 in France. His body was never recovered. There is a memorial to him at Sossians, and a photo of him and more will follow at the end of the video. Our next person, just there, and he is Sir Robert John Dashwood, 9th Baronet, 1859 to 1908. Interesting man this one, because he was born in New Zealand, but he unexpectedly succeeded to the baronetcy in 1893. But yet he died very suddenly in 1908, so he didn't get to enjoy that very long, I'm afraid. Our next person is just here. And she is Clara Adelaide Ida Conyers Lindsay. Died 25th of April 1945, wife of Sir Robert John Dashwood, 9th Baronet, the one who unexpectedly inherited the Wycombe estate and the baronetcy. Our next person, and this man has a lot of titles, just there, Sir John Lindsay Dashwood, 1896 to 1966, 10th Baronet of West Wycombe, Premier Baronet of Great Britain, son of Sir Robert John Dashwood. He was in the Argyll and Sutherland Highlanders and Tank Corps 1914 to 1918, Assistant Marshal of the Diplomatic Corps 1933 to 1958, High Sheriff of Buckingham 1934, Councillor of the Foreign Service 1934, and it's CVO or GVO 1952, and a photo of him will follow at the end of the video. Our next person is over here. Just there. And she is Victoria, only daughter of Baron de Rutzen of Schlebeck Park, Pembrokeshire, dearly loved wife of Sir Francis Dashwood, Baronet of West Wycombe, and mother of Emily, Georgina, Caroline and Edward, 1933 to 1976. Our next person is just there, and she's Lady Ellen Moira Dashwood, eldest daughter of Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Isaac Vernon Eaton of the Royal Canadian Horse Artillery, who was killed in action at Main Ridge 1917, and of Myra Fitz Brannan Frederick, it looks like, New Brunswick, Canada, later of Mill End Farm, West Wycombe, wife of Sir John Lindsay Dashwood, 10th Baronet, mother of Sarah, Francis and John. She died on the 22nd of she was born the 22nd of September 1899 and died on the 28th of June 1989. Ooh. Nearly knocked my phone down then. Our next person is just here, and he is the most recent burial, or commemoration rather I should say, because none of these people are buried in here, they are just commemorated here. Remember Francis Vernon John Hereward Dashwood, 11th Baronet, 7th of August 1925 to the 9th of March 2000, who loved West Wycombe, filled it with life and did so much to restore its former glory. A photo will follow of him at the end as the lady before, and she is the wife of Sir Robert Lindsay Dashwood, the lady that we just spoke about. And right at the end of our video we'll feature a picture of the doctor, and also we must remember some of these niches, the ones up the top there, some of these are empty. They did contain memorials to other people. One contained the urn containing the heart of Paul Whitehead, so that's one, isn't it, eh? So this is basically where we're going to be exploring tonight, doing a ghost hunt right here from this very spot. You'll join us in the pitch black dark, and I did manage to pre-record it as well, because when I do a live I do a screen recording of it too. So luckily, because YouTube screwed the entire things up, luckily we've got that. So I'll walk you around and give you some more views. This is just viewed from a different angle, of course. Some of them, like this one here, that one there, the inscriptions are quite badly gone, so difficult to read. Sir Francis Dashwood, Hellfire Man, he's mother and stepmother, so he must have thought highly of his stepmother. And you're wondering, where is Sir Francis himself? Along the top of this line you can just see the writing of it to Francis Dashwood, so this whole thing is basically his memorial. These urns, they don't contain anything, the majority of them. They're marble and some are terracotta. As I said, some were stolen. We'll hear a little bit more of that at the end of the video. Anyway, I'll move you around to the other side. There you are, you get a bit of view of it. This here is its main entrance, but it has got other ones as well, so, but it's never open to the public. They had vandalism and a few unpleasant things go on inside here. This one here is one of the ones that you can't make out the inscription of, and our soldier that died in the war, when you see his bit on the video, you'll see stone, a good few years ago and looking much whiter and cleaner than it does now. Some of these whiter urns up here were put in to replace the ones that were stolen. There were busts as well, and some of them were stolen, and the rest were pretty much removed for safety because people were getting into it. How, I don't know, because I wouldn't mind getting into this one if I'm honest with you. Let's have a look around, get a bit closer to the stones, I could take better pictures, but that's another story. But there is one thing I wouldn't show you. It's a bit of a mystery with this one, and the mystery thing is this. Now, where does that go to? Because it says online and everything that there's no bodies buried in here at all. This is just a memorial. The bodies are buried inside the church. So where does this interesting little door lead to? If you read some descriptions of the church, there are rumours of a tunnel that leads from up here down into the caves that was blocked up with chalk. Is this it? So we shall see. Well, we won't, but I would like to see rather. Anyway, as I say, join us tonight and I hope you're going to enjoy. And as said in our intro and introduction to the Dashwoods, I would put faces to names, and so I shall. And Lady Dashwood, the wife of Sir Francis Dashwood of Hellfire fame, Sarah Gould, married in 1745, and she sits right at the very centre of all this, so he must have loved her very, very greatly. And here they are, Lord and Lady Dashwood, in the park, and you can see West Wycombe Park House just over to the right in the background. And I said, didn't I, about our soldier as well that gave his life for his country, Robert Henry Lindsay Dashwood, captain of the Prince of Wales' own Yorkshire Regiment, son of Sir Robert John Dashwood, born in 1897, killed in action on the 27th of May 1918 in France, and his body was never recovered. He has a memorial here, of course, and he has one in the church, which if you watch the summer church video when it hits the page, you will see. And here is the man himself, Captain Robert Henry Lindsay Dashwood. Our next person of interest, who we have a photo of, is Sir John Lindsay Dashwood, 1896 to 1966, 10th Baronet of West Wycombe. This was the man with a lot of titles and had a lot of positions. And here is the man himself, when in his younger years. This will be First World War. And here we are, we see him later on at the christening of one of his children. And our next person, Lady Victoria Dashwood. Sorry, Lady Ellen Moira Dashwood, eldest daughter of Colonel Daniel Isaac Vernon Eaton, 1899 to 1989. And over to the right, here they are at Cowes, the Isle of Wight, Sir John and Lady Dashwood in 1933. And don't they make a dashing couple, don't they, the Dashwoods? People did dress elegantly back in those days, didn't they? Far more elegantly than we do. And our most recent man, Francis Vernon John Hereward Dashwood, 7th of August 1925 to the 9th of March 2000, the man that loved West Wycombe so much and did so much to restore its former glory. And here we see him here, John Vernon Hereward Dashwood. And as promised that I would show you at the end of the video, the medical doctor, Dr. Thomas Thompson, who was doctor to the Prince of Wales and also served under Nelson at the Nile. This is his memorial, and this is the man himself. Also, we mustn't forget Joseph Borgins. He did feature at West Wycombe Park. If you watched that and you saw the lovely paintings under the porchway of the house, if you watch the summer church and you see the stunning paintings in there, he will feature. There was a bust of him in the mausoleum, but it was stolen or vandalised and no longer exists, I'm afraid. But Joseph Borgins, 1704 to 1761. Borgins, a painter from Crevegia in northern Italy, came to England with other members of his family in 1751 at the invitation of Sir Francis Dashwood, and executed many of the fine ceilings and frescoes in West Wycombe House and in the Church of St. Lawrence. They were copies from famous places in Rome, such as the Palazzo Farnese, and from the temples at Palmyra, near Damascus. And what you see here is a ceiling painting from the Blue Room at West Wycombe House, painted by Joseph Borgins. I can find no images of the man online, or an image of his bust or anything, so it's a shame really. Would have liked to have put a face to that name and that talent. And of course, we mustn't forget Paul Whitehead. This urn, damaged when the heart was stolen, was up in the Dashwood Mausoleum, and it was in one of the niches right at the top, so how goodness knows the Australian soldier got it down to steal it, I have no idea, but still the heart he did, and the urn has been in the caves ever since. Paul Whitehead and his missing heart. When we look at the evidence at the end of the video, that's going to feature again. That's quite interesting actually. And here is the man himself, Paul Whitehead, great friend of Sir Francis Dashwood, who bequeathed his heart to Sir Francis Dashwood to be put in that urn and put up in the mausoleum. And since stolen, his restless spirit is said to have wandered the place ever since the mausoleum and the caves below, looking for his lost heart. And of course, Sir Francis Dashwood, he is mentioned right around the top of the stone frieze that goes around the top of the thing. But one of the memorials with the very worn inscriptions, I've found out since, this one here with the blue arrow is one of 3 or 4 memorials to Sir Francis, because he had the great big one set up to himself, which was the fresco. Then when he died, this one was set up by his daughter. There's another one inside the church. Now with the summer church, they don't allow videography beyond the altar rail, for security reasons of various kinds that I can't go into. But they very, very kindly allowed me in there to take photographs of Sir Francis's memorial in the church and the memorial of our man that lost his life in the war. So that you'll see if you watch the church. But here's one of his memorials that was set up by his children. And of course, the man himself, the father and son. Over to the left you see Sir Francis Dashwood. Over to the right you see Sir Francis Dashwood, son of the... so over to the left, sorry, father, over to the right, son, sorry, and both called Sir Francis. But the son outrivaled the father in his position and status and that. So I thought it was nice to end this little bit off with these two faces.